And hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Wings, and we're going to do a special interview today with Dorjan.
Hello there.
And let's go ahead and get this started off with you telling everyone a little bit about yourself.
Me, little old me. I'm just a guy who decided one day to become a streamer, and now I'm a professional streamer for World of Tanks. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, what exactly got you started into actually wanting to stream games?
Do you know what? It started with Hon, I would say. I've never had a good enough computer to do streaming. I live in England, which and not in a city, so I've never been able to stream. And I used to watch Heroes of New Earth's Honcast with Breaky CPK. And the guy was so funny. He was sat in his own bedroom doing great stuff. And he was so talented to be able to do such a thing. He was just able to entertain masses on his own completely solo. And I used to watch him a lot. And then I realized that, this is better than TV. I don't watch TV. All I do is watch this internet show about my favorite computer game. And I left it at that. I played Heroes of New Earth, semi-professionally on and off while I started my own family and, went from job to job. So I never really made anything of it. But that was probably the first time I thought, this is something. This is something different and unique that I've never experienced before. And I know streaming was happening a lot before then, but that's the first time I really encountered a stream where I actually tuned in to watch it,
Okay. And as of today, what would you line up as your top 10 favorite games of all time?
God, my top 10 favorite games of
Yes.
all time. Now, if you want to include things like the Commodore 64, right, I've got
Yes.
Silkworm up there. Have you ever played Silkworm?
Yes. Granted, it was
You
like when I
have?
was 9.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yes.
Right, I loved that game. Right, it was amazing. I was always the Jeep. My brother was always the chopper, and I was the Jeep. And
Okay.
you had to learn how to become a good gamer for that game. Yeah, you had to learn how to be good. You had to learn how to quick react, reposition, plan ahead because of the gun on the Jeep. You had to adjust yourself to what angle you're shooting at. Not like the chopper who just fired and fired and fired. The Jeep had a lot more to it. You had to dodge by jumping over things. The chopper just had to fly around the screen. That was one of my favorite games. I'm not going to put this in any particular order because they're all different. They're good for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Return to Castle Wolfenstein's multiplayer, not the single player. Single player was bollocks, but the multiplayer was fantastic. It was the first one I can remember that played with classes. It played with classes, so you picked your support or your medic or your sniper, and then you had to do your job in a team to do an objective. And then you had to then defend while the other one attacked and reverse roles. So that was my first real big experience of that style of gameplay, first-person shooters. Starfleet Command 2 was my first multiplayer online game that I played in a clan, and I did that one a lot. So that was really interesting because you had your squadron, you had to pre-select your ship, you had to load it out, and then that really dictated what you had to do later. So that's really, really interesting. It was really good strategies, and being able to be quick on your keys and in your mind was really high in that game too. Red Alert, because it's Red Alert. You don't have to say much more about that game. Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I also like number 4 as well, but that causes conflict between the community. But yeah, Heroes of Might and Magic is a very good game. It's one of these games that just next, and you can't stop. You really can't. You want to stop, and then the sun comes up, and you're like, I gotta go to work. It's horrible for that, but it's an amazing game. God, I'm now looking up to mine, but Final Fantasy Online it's a love-hate relationship with that game.
Really?
I played it a lot, and I still play it to this day. I don't play much of it. I don't have time to play it much, like once a week, maybe at best, but normally just once a month. And that game had a horrible support from Square Enix. The play online system was terrible, but the game itself was amazing. Very hard. You die, you de-level. You don't get that. Wow. It really is. It was super good. God, it's really hard to think about my favorite games from that point onwards. I have different games that I really enjoyed. Things like Dynasty Warriors on the PlayStation. I used to play that a lot. It was just a hack and slash. It was a bit of fun. And it was really fast paced. And if you really learnt the game, there was a bit of strategy to it too. Being able to block and then counter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was like a very simple beat 'em up, but at the same time, lots of battles, and it was fun. trying to think if I've missed anything that was really influential as a child. I'm not including any of games recently. So I'm not including World of Tanks, which is a really good game. It's one of my favorite games. But I'm not including any recent games. So I just don't think they count.
Okay.
I'm talking about games. Bubble Bobble. I can't miss that Bubble Bobble. Jesus Christ. Bubble Bobble I spent so much of my youth on. I love that game. Oh, it's such a good game. Do you know what? I love the Commodore 64 and the Amiga 1200.
Okay.
Yeah, I love them consoles. Well, they're not really consoles, they're computers. I loved them. I really did. I played them a lot. My first programming was done on them. I made my first like Pong style game, and not even really games, just making things happen on the computer. I followed the big book. It was just like you get these books that are like this big, right?
Yeah.
Per page, and you're reading through it. It's 100 pages for one program, and this is the clincher. No save function, so you do it every time you power up the machine. And I used to do it for whatever reason. I used to do it at 5 years old, programming there on the Commodore 64, and I would make my own programs for whatever reason.
And would you leave it switched on so it would say? Well, since it doesn't say.
Overnight. God, you would hope that it didn't overheat. You get the fan on it, all that sort of stuff. You wake up in the morning and burn yourself because you touched it. Yeah, that was good times. Good times. You want to talk about consoles though? What is it called? Rage? Oh god. On the Master System, Streets of Rage. Come on, what a great game! You ever played Streets of Rage?
I actually haven't heard of that one.
What? Oh. It was like one of the side scrollers, like ding ding, next. You got to beat up a bunch of people, next, and you were one of 3 police officers. You had is it Axel? You had the female. Was it female cop and 2 bloke cops, and they all had the different styles of fighting.
Okay.
Picked up weapons and beat up bosses, and they could call in artillery support from their police friends, who then turn up in police vehicles, but off screen, fire something like a mortar into screen and blow up the whole screen. Apart from you, because of course it doesn't hurt you. But Double Dragon, and there was another game that I'm just trying to remember, and I can never remember its name. You might remember this, okay? And try and tell me his name. But you were this guy. It was like a shooter game, I think. Yeah, it was a shooter game. And at the end of the game, or end of each mission, you could then spend a resource that you had to pick up on some prisoners that were in like capsules. And at the end of the game, the amount you managed to free would be there on the end credit screen, and you had to try and rescue as many as you can.
It's not Mega Man, is it?
No, it was. No, it's probably not something so big, but it was so good.
I don't know. My mind is just like Contra. I was playing Contra while you were playing these other games.
Yeah, it was like Contra, but not quite Contra.
Metal Slug?
I can't remember.
No, Metal Slug you had to free prisoners, but I don't think you could spend points at the end. Other good games though.
They're all great games. But yeah, God, no, I don't think that would be all my influential games as a kid. There's probably loads that I played that I can't remember their names and/or, yeah. No, I would say that was about all the ones I spent a lot of time on that I really loved to this day. I got Bubble Bobble, like I could play it right now.
You can play it right now.
I could play it right now. It was installed on my system before my hard drive crashed 2 weeks ago.
No.
I used to play it with my son. So yeah.
And during the era of disc-based games, I say that because, well, these days you have Steam, you have Origin, everything downloads to your computer.
Yeah.
As a child and teenager, did you take care of your discs, or did you let them get scratched?
That's a hard one. I had 2 older brothers. Yeah, I looked after them in the sense of they were in my CD-ROM drive until I got bored of them and they got put on the shelf, back in the box. Well, then again, I guess I looked after them. They went back in the case, then back into the box, because disc-based games of this era came in boxes. Right, and let's see if I've got any. Yeah, I got some. Here we go.
Will it be a UO disc? Oh.
Let's move that dust before the dust comes down. Can you see that?
Nice. Battlezone.
Battlezone. This is the sort of boxes they came in. Okay. And every game of mine had these. So your X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, I had that. I can't believe I didn't mention any of the X-Wing series in that last question. X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, Balance of Power. I loved them and played them to death. But yeah, they all came in these sort of boxes, and I kept them all on my shelf above my computer, like I have now. Different house though, but I've set up the same situation. And I would keep them all in the box. I would actually look after the boxes. Red Alert and all that, I still got the boxes in the attic. And yeah, I looked after them if they're not in my computer. I got a little story, actually, when I first... This is an upgrade story. Do you ever remember Command & Conquer Renegade?
Oh, yes. I actually have the full Command & Conquer series installed right now.
Well, Renegade was a game that I loved. It was a first-person shooting game with the multiplayer online I love. But I only had a 400 processor, right? I had a 400 hertz processor, okay? And, yeah. And that was an AMD K7, K6, and I had to upgrade it. And I went into the upgrade shop and I saw the CPUs then. There was one for 450, not pounds, 450 speed, right? Not gigahertz, megahertz speed, yeah? Okay. This is 450, so that's a 50 hertz upgrade. People these days are like, what, really? And I bought it just so I could play Renegade, okay? And Renegade came with 2 discs, because back then, Westwood Studios released 2 discs with all their games. So you could play it networked with a friend. You need the disc in the drive, but you got 2 discs, so you can give it to a friend or your brother across the network. You would put the disc in and you'll be able to play across the network with it. But what we used to do is have 4 or 5 computers in LAN linked up, and then you have 30 seconds to 2 guys load the game up, eject the CDs, run to the next computer, give them the CD, they put it in, they accept it, they take the disc out, give it to the next person, you put it in the CD. You try and do that within 30 seconds, and if someone failed to do it, they got dropped from the game, and only 4 of you got in. Brilliant time. That was good time. Anyway, my Renegade CDs was in my CD-ROM drive, and my CD-ROM drive started to get a bit faulty and started breaking, and it snapped one of my discs. Like bang, and just cracked in my CD-ROM drive. Bang! Heard a big thump in my drive. Ejected it, and the CD was broken. Snapped in one place. Just cracked, clean.
Ooh.
I was like, whoa. So do you know what I did? I was really smart as a kid. Do you know what I did?
What?
I put it in the other disc, right? I've got to play Renegade. I put it in the other disc. Guess what? Bang! It cracked as well. So I lost both my discs. So I was like, fuck! This is my favorite game. I've got to play Renegade. So I phoned up EA, which I think had taken Westwood Studios by that point. I think it was EA, it might be just Westwood. I phoned them up, and remember, I live in England.
Yeah.
So it was an expensive phone call. I was like, my CD-ROM drive has broken my Renegade. I can prove that I own it. Can you give me another disc? And they said, if you give us £5, and this game was £30 at the time, I bought it brand new. If you give us £5, we will send you new discs. I was like, really? £5 for a brand new version of this game? I thought they were being godly. Now, they could have just sent me the game again, but no, I thought they were being amazing. And so I paid them the £5, and they sent me a brand new box copy. And I believe to this day I still have both the dual cases. Or I gave one to a friend. No, I gave one to a friend so he could use the CD key. But I had 2 boxes, I had 2 CD keys. I thought I was the boss, because my brother now could play online with me, because we had 2 CD keys. I only bought it once, and he could use one disc, and I could use the other. I was like, yeah, winning £5 for a £30 game. I thought I was the bees. Oh, I did buy a new CD-ROM drive before my new Renegade got there, though.
Oh yeah.
I was a teenager at this point, a really young teenager. So when was Renegade even released?
It was a while back, but it was still one of the great games. It's still I think people will compare it with Renegade 2 Command & Conquer Generals as being the most popular, I think.
See, I don't know about. I didn't actually get on with Generals that much.
Really?
But, yeah, the Renegade itself. I used the rifle. The assault rifle was the best weapon in the game. And if you hit the head, it was like bing. It had that nice sound when you hit them in the head. Bing. It was great. But,
Things that probably inspired into Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, it's good stuff. But no, Renegade, I don't know. I guess it was just all the racism in the game. It just got on my nerves. It was funny at first, but I was never that immature as a person. And I found the humor to be very, what to put it, very tasteless. The game itself was pretty cool. And I did like the changes they made with like the iron cannon. You could click it and click a second location, it would drag across the ground. That was really cool. Not only that, having multiple super weapons. And if you let them all charge up, you play defensively, you got 50 iron cannons, and then you just like made sure you'd made X's with the iron cannons over the enemy bases. That was brilliant. But yeah, that was awesome.
So, like many other famous streamers, have you played StarCraft and StarCraft 2?
Yeah, I've got a history of StarCraft. I love StarCraft 1. I hated the fact you could only select 12 units. I thought it was inferior to Red Alert because I was a fanboy of Red Alert. Conquer General. I loved Tiberian Sun and all that sort of stuff. And I loved the cheesy, real actors in the cutscenes. I loved it. I absolutely lapped it up. So I was a bit of a fanboy, and I loved